Rafah is overwhelmingly made up of former Palestinian refugees. When Israel withdrew from the Sinai in 1982, Rafah was split into a Gazan part and an Egyptian part, dividing families, separated by barbed wire barriers. The core of the city was destroyed by Israel and Egypt to create a large buffer zone. Rafah is the site of the Rafah border crossing, the sole crossing point between Egypt and the State of Palestine. Gaza's only airport, Yasser Arafat International Airport, was located just south of the city. The airport operated from 1998 to 2001, until it was bombed and bulldozed by the Israeli military after the killing of Israeli soldiers by members of Hamas. Over the ages it has been known as Robiwa by the ancient Egyptians, Rafihu by the Assyrians, Rafia by the Greeks, Rafia by Romans, Rafia by the Israelites, Raf by the Arab Caliphate. The transliteration of the Hebrew name, Rafia, is used in modern English alongside Raf. The Ottoman-British Agreement of 1 October 1906 established a boundary between Ottoman-ruled Palestine and British-ruled Egypt, from Tabor to Rafah. After World War I, Palestine was also under British control, but the Egypt-Palestine boundary was maintained to control movement of the local Bedouin. From the mid-1930s, the British enhanced the border control and Rafah evolved as a small boundary town which functioned as a trade and services center for the semi-settled Bedouin population. During the Second World War it became an important British base, following the Armistice Agreement of 24 February 1949. Rafah was located in Egypt-occupied Gaza and consequently, a Gaza-Egypt border did no longer exist. Rafah could grow without any consideration being taken of the old 1906 international boundary. In the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel conquered the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip from Egypt, and all of the city now was under Israeli occupation. In 1979, Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty that returned the Sinai, which borders the Gaza Strip, to Egyptian control. In the peace treaty, the recreated Gaza-Egypt border was drawn across the city of Rafah. Rafah was divided into an Egyptian and a Palestinian part, splitting up families, separated by barbed wire barriers. Families were separated, property was divided, and many houses and orchards were cut across and destroyed by the new boundary. Bulldozed, allegedly for security reasons. Rafah became one of the three border points between Egypt and Israel. In 1922, Rafah's population was 599, which increased to 2,220 in 1945. In 1982, the total population was approximately 10,800. In the 1997 Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics census, Rafah and its adjacent camp had a combined population of 91,181. Sultan was listed with a further 17,141. Refugees made up 80.3% of the entire population. In the 1997 census, Rafah's gender distribution was 50.5% male and 49.5% female. In the 2006 PCBS estimate, Rafah city had a population of 71,003. Rafah Camp and Sultan form separate localities for census purposes, having populations of 59,983 and 24,418, respectively. Antiochus III, willing to make peace with Ptolemy V, had his daughter Cleopatra I marry Ptolemy V. Their marriage took place in 193 BC in Rafia. Rafah has a history stretching back thousands of years. It was first recorded in an inscription of Egyptian pharaoh Seti I from 1303 BCE as RPH, and as the first stop on Pharaoh Shoshenq I's campaign to the Levant in 925 BCE. In 720 BCE it was the site of the Assyrian king Sargon II's victory over the Egyptians. And in 217 BCE the Battle of Rafia was fought between the victorious Ptolemy IV and Antiochus III. The town was conquered by Alexander Yanai and held by the Hasmoneans until it was rebuilt in the time of Pompey and Gubanus. The latter seems to have done the actual work of restoration, for the era of the town dates from 57 BCE. Rafah is mentioned in Strabo, the Antonine Itinerary, and is depicted on the map of Madaba. During the Byzantine period, it was a diocese, and Byzantine ceramics and coins have been found there. It was represented at the Council of Ephesus 431 CE by Bishop Romanus, but today remains a titular see of the Roman Catholic Church, but a small Greek Orthodox presence exists. Rafah was an important trading city during the early Arab period, and one of the towns captured by the Rashidu army under General Amr ibn as in 635 CE. Under the Umayyads and Abbasids, Rafah was the southernmost border of Juned Philistin. According to Arab geographer al-Yaqubi, it was the last town in the province of Syria and on the road from Ramla to Egypt. A Jewish community settled in the city in the 9th and 10th centuries and again in the 12th. Although in the 11th century it suffered a decline and in 1080 they migrated to Ashkelon. A Samaritan community also lived there during this period. Like most cities of southern Palestine, ancient Rafah had a landing place on the coast, while the main city Washington,